Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me another chance to try to work through this Bible with y'all. If you would turn in your Bibles to the very first book, Genesis, not the book of maps, not the book of index, the book of Genesis, chapter 1. I would like to call this the Song of Creation, in case Sam Haney's watching this. It's the Song of Creation. I want to read this to you. You may not have heard this read before in the New Living Translations. This is one of my favorite translations. It's very easy to preach from, but I've read it in all kinds of versions. But just listen like you're hearing this for the first time as I try to get through these 6 days that changed history. Well, that actually made history. In the beginning, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness night. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the first day. Then God said, "Let there be space between the waters, to separate the waters of the heavens from the waters of the earth." And that is what happened. God made the space to separate the waters of the earth from the waters of the heaven. He called the space sky. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the second day. Then God said, "Let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place, so dry ground may appear." And that's what happened. God called the dry ground land, and the waters the seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land sprout with vegetation, every sort of seed-bearing plant, and trees that grow seed-bearing fruit. These seeds will then produce the kinds of plants and trees from which they came." And that is what happened. The land produced vegetation, all sorts of seed-bearing plants, and trees with seed-bearing fruit. Their seeds produced plant and trees of the same kind, and God saw that it was good. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the third day. Then God said, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons and days and years. Let these lights in the sky shine down on the earth." And that is what happened. God made two great lights, the larger one to govern the day, and the smaller one to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set these lights in the sky to light the earth, to govern the day and the night, to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the waters swarm with fish and other life. Let the skies be filled with birds of every kind." So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that scurries and swarms in the waters, and every sort of bird, each producing offspring of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply. Let the fish fill the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." And evening passed, and morning came, marking the fifth day. Then God said, "Let the earth produce every sort of animal, each producing offspring to the same kind, livestock, small animals that scurry along." Don't you just love that word, scurry? It kind of creeps you out. So just a little commentary. "That scurry along the ground, and wild animals." And that is what happened. God made all sorts of wild animals, livestock, and small animals, each able to produce offspring of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. And now something happens. Oh boy. You ready for this? Verse 26. Then God said, "Let us make human beings," or man, or some of your translations say mankind, boys and girls, "in our image, to be like us. They will reign over the fish of the sea, over the birds in the sky, and the livestock, all the wild animals on the earth and the small animals that scurry along the ground. There's that word again. So God created man, or human beings, in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. Imagine that, male and female. He intended that. He created it. Wow, don't hear that every day. Verse 28, then God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish of the seas and the birds in the sky and all the animals that scurry along the ground. Then God said, look, I have given you every seed-bearing plant throughout the earth and all the fruit trees for your food, and I have given every green plant as food for all the wild animals and the birds of the sky and the small animals that scurry. I wish I had a nickel for every time it said scurry. It's a lot. Along the ground, everything that has life, and that is what happened. Then God looked over all he had made. He saw that it was very good. And the evening and morning passed, and morning came, marking the sixth day. So the creation of the heavens and earth and everything in them was completed. On the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all of his work, and God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because it was the day when he rested from all his works of creation. This is the account of the creation of the heavens and the earth. Amen to that. This is not a popular thing that I've just read, unfortunately. Some people talk about this like it was a fairy tale, like this is a nursery rhyme, that this is just this is something you entertain the children with until they come to their senses, And every form of media that's out there today, I don't know if you even realize it inundates us. Like every school, pretty much, not all, but pretty much, and every college, pretty much, and every university, pretty much, not every, but pretty much, says, oh, this isn't right. This thing, evolution, of course, makes sense, right? Out of nothing, you are nothing, you turn into bigger nothing, you learn how to type, you learn how to make a cell phone, and then you go away to nothing. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. That is the history of evolution, right? And people embrace that hand over fist. And day after day, and year after year. This whole thing about meaning and purpose, evolution doesn't feed into that at all, does it? Well, I stand here with an open Bible before you, and I say this. We are here on purpose. Each one of us are here on purpose for a reason. Each one of us had a beginning, middle, and we have a glorious end. I think we do, most of us. And it was meant to be. I mean, there was a young boy who sat down one time. I heard this from Chuck Swindoll, another Chuck Swindoll story. And he had a blank piece of paper, and he had a box of Crayola crayons, the rainbow kind, the big box, And, the teacher's kind of walking around, and she walks up to the little boy, we'll call him Johnny. Hey, what are you doing there, Johnny? Well, I'm drawing a picture of God, right? And she kind of like him-hawed. She goes, well, Johnny, none of us really know what God looks like. And he went, I know, I'm not finished yet. Not one of you want to smile, two smile. I'll keep working on these stories. Wow, tough group. Anyway, creativeness, that is from God. Anybody out there who likes to build stuff, who likes to create stuff, who likes to decorate stuff, that nature is inherent in you. It is of God. It has a purpose. It has an aesthetic. It has a beauty. There goes the Batmobile. I just knocked it off. This here's the Batmobile. I keep it up here for my own amusement, so mind your own business. Anyway, purpose. This whole thing about purpose is really what I want to talk about. You see, because this world that we live in, this world that we raise our children in, this world that we try to be Christians in, has two different camps that I've come to know in my experience. There is camp, I hate you, and there is camp, I love you. right? So camp, I hate you is pretty much the devil. That's his camp. I don't want you to be born in the first place. But if you're born, I want to kill you as soon as possible. If you make it past that and you're a little kid, I want to mess with you to the point where you're so confused, you don't know what's up, you don't know where you came from, you think you're some glorious accident. And if you escape that into teenagehood, I want you to kill yourself and commit suicide because you're just a bundle of chemicals, every teenager is, and you're not sure about this, you don't know who you are, what's going on. The devil is like, kill yourself, forget about it, you come from nothing, you go to nothing, you are nothing. And if you survive that into early adulthood, college age, Camp I Hate You says, well, I'll give you some philosophies to chew on, but none of them have God in them. Creation, no God in that. Philosophy, no God in that. Destiny, no God in that. It's all you. And you come from nothing and you go to nothing, so what's the difference? It's all relative. Situational ethics and all these high-minded things coming down the pike. And are we not inundated with that in every form of media? Whether it's movies, songs, our news, our schools, we're just inundated day and night. And we have to raise children in this environment where it's nihilistic, where it's like, it's nothing, it means nothing, it's hopeless, despair. This is the camp called I Hate You. And if you do happen to live into old age, it just wants to throw as much gloom and despair and fatal nihilism on you as it can. That's Camp I Hate You. Thank God I don't live in that camp anymore. But most people that I encounter do. Most people I encounter, maybe you too, have a very fatalistic view of everything. If they only knew, if they only believed that they came from somewhere, that they came here on purpose, that they are no accident. And then there's the other camp. I brought you down with that one. The camp, I love you. And this is God's camp. And this is the camp that I've been drafted into. I wasn't born in that camp, but I'm there now. I knew about you. I dreamed about you. I foresaw you. I've got great hopes and expectation. Matter of fact, I know how tall you're going to be. I know how much hair you will have, or not have in some cases. and I know I'll give you these talents, and I'll put you in this scenario, and I'm just going to watch you and enjoy you and watch you flourish and watch you grow and help you along the way. And then when you've done all this, when you've come to discover this, I have a glorious, glorious eternity waiting for you. Will you please take my hand? Will you please join me in this life? Will you please acknowledge me? Will you accept my son, my gift to you? Will you change? Will you grow? Will you be corrected? Will you push towards the light? Will you find your purpose in this life? Will you share that purpose? That's Camp I Love You. And it all starts with love, and I've talked about this so often. Love is the biggest risk. When you say those uncomfortable words to that lady for the first time, honey, I'm talking to that one over there. I love you. And then you wait for the response, and it's, well, gee, Tom, you're kind of cute, but I just want to be friends. How many guys have been through that? So I had to wear her down. I had to chase her for a long time, and then she finally came around. I bought her flowers, and it came around. But what a risk. God gives you this beautiful creation. He puts you in the middle of this creation. He says, now what will you call this stuff? How will you name this? How will you go about this? What will you excel in? What are your interests? What are your joys? And just watch you and enjoy you. And there's that risk. Here's everything, guys. Enjoy it. And we say, you know what, God, that's all great and everything, but we'd rather do this without you. We'd rather explore our own depths of our depraved souls, and we'd rather make our own gods in our own image, and what? Just think about how insane that is. This is the world we're living in. We have a huge problem on planet Earth today. It's called lack of God. For some stupid reason, a long time ago, we have tried to push him out of our thinking. We've tried to replace him in every single way and build little shrines to human reasoning and human thinking. This whole thing about evolution, I'm no great scientist, but it's a really faith-based organization, if you ask me. I don't have that kind of faith. One day, there was stuff, and some of that stuff exploded, And in exploding, a couple of things ran into each other, and they accidentally caused a cell, and two of those cells bumped together and made a bigger cell, and croaked or glooped or whatever, and climbed out on its two legs, and then climbed a tree and got a typewriter and wrote its manifesto, accidentally for no particular reason, and boom, here we are, an accident of nature. And I say, wow, that's quite a leap. Where did the stuff come from? Well, the universe always existed. Oh, and it accidentally, by chance, just flew into each other and all these things? Well, yeah. I don't care how important a person or how many PhDs or doctorates they have after their name. It all boils down to that. It was an accident, and it came from nothing, accidentally, for no reason and no purpose. But I look at the woodpecker. Anybody ever seen a woodpecker? That bird has to have so many things working at the same time to do what he does. He is rapidly, with that beak, like a machine gun, pecking into that tree, trying to get that stupid bug or that worm or whatever in there. So he has to have a very thick skull. He has to have specific neck muscles. He's got to have an extremely long tongue to get in there. He's got to have a beak that can take that beating all at the same time, or you're going to have a bird with a concussion laying down the bottom of every tree. So, okay, a bird did that, and then he evolved into one that could actually say, no, you've got a bunch of dead birds with concussions. They don't evolve, they kill themselves. All these things have to happen at the same time. Where's your evolution in this? And then I think of these wonderfully, wonderfully clad flightless birds called emperor penguins. Anybody ever seen an emperor penguin? They're very distinguished looking tuxedos and whatnot. They live in the South Pole, one of the most inhospitable environments on the planet Earth, right? Well, when things get really bad, when things get really windy and cold, they stand in a circle facing out. And they join together, and their body heat helps them survive. And when one gets a little bit cold, he backs up, and another warm penguin from the inside comes out and takes his place. Who told him to do that? How many frozen dead penguins does it take over billions of years to create the one that can stand up there and say, hey guys, I know how we can stay warm, and they're all dead. You can't evolve into that. You either are that or you aren't that. Things have to happen at the same time. Your eye in your head, it has to not only see the stuff, it has to turn it, it hits your back of your brain backwards, your brain has to turn it around, make it upright, and then say, oh yeah, that's a hickety-doo here, and give you the English language to help you articulate and understand. These things happen in nanoseconds at the same time. How do you evolve into something like that? Accidentally. And then look at the universe. The distance and all these things, the way it's situated to provide life. You mean to tell me you have so much faith that this was all an accident? That we could all, well, here we are after billions of tries. Well, how billions of rocks floating around in nothingness form a life system, an ecosystem? You've got to have a lot of faith to believe in that. Why do we swallow that nonsense? Did you ever really look at it that way? What if, call me crazy, I know you do, someone made this stuff on purpose for his own pleasure, and he put the earth in such and such a place where that ball of fire we call the sun, it's just far enough to give us 4 seasons, and we rotate around it just at the right time to make it all work out. And then we've got the moon and the stars and their light shining us, and we can judge our times and our seasons and our day and our night. And it just works out so wonderfully, like a Swiss watch, so precise. Tell me that's an accident. And that's just one example. You breathe in, you breathe out. What if you accidentally breathed in and breathed out the wrong way and your head exploded? No, that doesn't happen. I don't think it happens, does it? We know our lungs know to do this, and we breathe out. The plants know, oh, that's good. We'll breathe that in, and then we'll do. How does all this stuff know how to work? On purpose. There's a designer. If you ripped out a bunch of pages and a bunch of letters and threw them in your washing machine, how many spins would it take before a dictionary came out? If I took the million pieces of a Swiss watch and I dumped them out here, right here in there, how long would it take me to put all that together? 1,000,000 years, and I still wouldn't do it right. But where do those parts come from? They all mean something, and they all have to work at the same time to make it happen. And then, not only that does it work, it tells time, and it tells it accurately. And if it runs out of gas, you just give it a little wind, and it's right back. It's on purpose. It's by design. It's helpful. It's useful. And it's amazing. I'm in Camp Love, ladies and gentlemen. I was made by someone who thought about me on purpose. I live in a place, a camp, where he gave me a second chance. Where in spite of all the terrible things that we bring on ourselves, he forgives me. He washes me. He cleanses me. He teaches me. He gives me a place to be, and he gives me a wonderful future to go to. That's my camp. And I believe that many of you, if not all of you, hopefully, are there. That's your camp. That's called salvation. Now, if I read a couple of chapters into Genesis, we'd see where we messed the whole thing up. One thing we were told not to do, we did it. Whether you want to call it an apple tree, a pear tree, or a banana tree, or whatever, doesn't matter. Don't touch it. Don't go near it. Don't taste it. Whoa, you mean this? I mean, that was all of us. Yeah, that was all of us. We messed up, and we bear the fruits of that in our own bodies, our own souls. He could have just went, rip that page out, throw away, start again, redo. But no, he showed mercy. He showed grace, and he himself provided salvation to a fallen world. You know, a world of people walking around with hammers in their hand, beating themselves in the head, complaining of a headache. My head hurts. Boy, I hear this ringing in my ears. Day and night, I can't stop this pain. You're hitting yourself in the head. Don't judge me, you're judging me. Why are you judging me? Don't tell me what to do. This is my life. I'll do what I want to do. I mean, you think God in heaven would look at us sometimes and go, oh, please. please stop hitting yourself in the head with a hammer and you won't have a headache. No, thousands of years later, we're still hitting our heads with a hammer, aren't we? But salvation comes in, grabs the hammer and says, put the hammer down. Come to me, and I'll straighten you out. I'll take care of your headache. I'll give you a whole new perspective. What? No more pain? No more ringing in the ears? No, I got this. I got this for you. Purpose, plan, salvation. This is where we are. This beautiful place was made on purpose. We, collectively, have all played our part in messing it up, haven't we? We've made a mess. My mother's yelled at me a few times. What did you do? Didn't I tell you? You weren't supposed... Yeah, Mom, guilty. So we've messed things up, and God has come in to help us get it back together, to help us get back to the garden that we were supposed to have been in all along, to have the bliss and the fellowship that he intended all along. He did not give up on us. He's given us another chance through Jesus. This is our salvation. So we've been delivered from camp, I hate you, into camp, I love you. And it's all because this whole earth just has a fingerprint of God on it, doesn't it? I heard this story. This is an eyewitness account, twice removed maybe, but you know how missionary stories are. I first heard this from Malcolm Smith, one of my favorite Bible teachers from the late 80s, early 90s. I used to listen to him on the radio. I'd be at work and I would slip away any chance I could to listen to him on the radio, and then the other guys would come in and try to bother me while I'm listening to him. But one story he told me was years ago, maybe in the 30s or 40s, there was still a tribe in Africa. I'm not making this up. This is true. And they had not really got involved in the Western world or the modern world. They were still living primitively in the deep jungle. And this one fella decided one day he'd go out and be by himself, and he looked around at the forest, and he says, you know, the forest is good. This forest, it's just the right temperature. It gives me shade. That tree over there gives me something to eat. This one here, I can cut it down and build stuff out of. And the animals, they I can eat that one, or I can ride that one. They're kind of here for me. And this stuff is just amazing. Where did it all come from? It's just like, it must have come through somebody bigger than me. He called himself a me. I'm a me, I think. I imagine stuff and I can see stuff. But all this, it must have come from something greater than me. So he would go out into the forest every day. This is true. And he would sing songs and say prayers to the great me who made the forest. And he would thank God for all the stuff he had. He didn't call it God, he called it the great me. So he would go out there and he would talk to the great me. And he would just say, well, how's everything today? Well, how should I do this? And just ask him questions. And one night he had a dream. And in his dream, the great me spoke to him in his dream and says, someone will come to your forest. And they have skin of white. And they will be carrying something black. They will tell you my name. He's like, oh, I get to know the great me's name. This is exciting. He was so pumped up. So every day he'd go out in the forest and he'd be looking around for years, I guess. And one day there was a missionary who was led by an interpreter and a caravan into this particular village. And their goal was to bring the gospel. And they were thinking to themselves, this is going to be hard because we barely speak their language. And how are we going to present this? And what examples do we use? And they're like praying about it, like, how do we do this? Well, they didn't even realize the work was already being done. So they come up over the hill in their caravan, and there was a white lady who was carrying a black Bible. So the guy was out in the forest. He looks up. He sees white skin carrying something black. And he goes, Yahoo! And he runs from the forest, and he tackles this poor girl. Everybody in the caravan's shocked. What is he going to do? Is he going to kill her? And he's like all excited. He's like, saying his language. Tell me his name. Tell me his name. Tell me his name. And she doesn't know what he's talking about. Finally, they calm him down. The interpreter sits with them, and roughly they get this idea. He wants to know the name of something. And the lady's sitting there, the name of something, the name of something. And the native starts pointing to the black book. Tell me his name. Tell me his name. You mean God has told you that we're coming? You're going to listen to what God has to say? And you want to know his name? Yes, yes, yes. So this guy did a dance and a jig, and he ran in front of them telling everybody in the village, the great me is here. He's going to tell us his name. So everybody in the village got curious, and they all came around. And the lady, through the interpreter, gave them the gospel. And that village came to Christ that day. Can you believe that? Purpose, meaning, order, design. That is our God. He works within it. Now, some people are just too stiff-necked and stubborn to even ask, but that fella at least had the idea to go out and find something bigger than himself. That in itself is God ordained. The truth of God, the hunger for God, that is only placed in the human soul by God himself. So that is our purposeful God. That is his plan. That's how he rolls with us. Do you see that? Do you get that? You, my friends, are not an accident. I've known so many people over the years who come up to me and say, why are we here? What's the point? It's useless. It's just, why? You know, there's a lot of questions I don't know the answer to, but I know the answerer. And my job and your job is to say, well, why don't you talk to the guy who made you up, who designed you? You know, well, why don't you talk to the one who had you in mind for all these years, who anticipated you, who has the key to all your talents, all your times, all your trials, your tribulations. He has it all right in his hand, and he wants to meet you. He has literally reached into your world to talk to you. But we know this also about God as we read the Bible. He is a gentleman. And a gentleman never barges in. A gentleman will stand outside the door with a bouquet of flowers. Knock, 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 knock. And he will wait there until the door is opened. Then he'll say, may I come in? And you will either say, well, maybe tomorrow. I got my hair in curlers, or, you're nice and all. That's up to us. I stand at the door and I knock. This is what Jesus said. If you will open and let me in, I will come and I will sit with you. I will have supper with you. And we'll discuss this. It's up to you. He is at the door knocking. Anyone you know who's having a hard time, I want you to ask him this. I know you're having a hard time. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not I know you're beating yourself in the head with a hammer, and I could get into that, but I won't right now. There's somebody at your door. Will you let him in and sit down with him and discuss things? Just ask him that. Well, you don't understand this, that. Well, I think I may not understand, but I know someone who does understand these things. Oh, but Tom, I got this problem, I got that problem. You know what? I know the designer, and nobody knows more than the designer how to fix a problem, how to get to the root of it, how to rewire it, how to reconfigure it. He's really out there for you, and he's knocking at your door. Will you let him in? That's it right there. That's enough witnessing, don't you think? And his name's Jesus, in case you're wondering. That's his name. He came pretty much 2,000 years ago, walked among people. People didn't understand him, but people were just blown away by the things he said and how he said it. And then they saw him do miracles. And then they saw him walking on water. And then they saw him arrested. And then they saw him taken out. And then they saw him humiliated and crucified. But then they saw him rise from the dead forever, taking care of death, hell, the grave. This guy's amazing. He didn't have to do any of that, but he did it because he loves you. And now he stands there like that shy young boy. Thelma Lou, I love you. What do you say? Well, Jesus, you're cute and all, but I've got this own thing going over here, and Billy Bob over there, he's kind of handsome. I don't know, Jesus. Come on, get over Billy Bob. Go with Jesus. Go with Jesus. He's the guy with all the answers. He's the guy with the blueprint. He can take you back to the drawing board and say, well, here, we kind of went off here, but we can fix it. We can go that way, and it can be even better. And on your way, shine a little bit, and we'll get some more people in here, and we'll create my kingdom. And it'll be great. My father and I, we thought about this the whole time we were laying this out. We knew it could have went south. We knew it could have gone wrong here and there, but we were ready. And we were not going to give up. And we were not going to let you just go off. We were going to offer you hope the entire time. So everybody who took a breath on planet Earth. Now, what do you people say this, Tom, what about the natives or the people who have never heard the gospel, never even heard of the name of Jesus, never saw the book, the Bible? What about them? What happens to them? This just is not fair, Tom. I mean, this whole thing. I've had people come to me with this. Did you? I say this. This is my answer, and God will bear me out on this. Okay, that person breathed their last breath and went on into eternity, and now they're standing before the benevolent, holy, all-knowing, most gracious, most merciful being ever, creator of heaven and earth. And right there, they will be judged righteously. Do you doubt that? Do you think it'll be unfair on that day? Do you think God won't take care of business, whatever needs taken care of? Are you worried about that? Or do you really trust him? I mean, we have an advantage. We have heard the gospel. We have responded. We have entered into the kingdom. So we will be judged thereby. The ones who have heard the gospel, who have rejected it, who will not, don't, whatever, they will be judged a different way by the righteous, holy, all-knowing, all-seeing creator of heaven and earth. Do you doubt that? There's nothing to worry about. He's got this. This whole thing that I hear these days, you may hear it too, about fairness. This is unfair, this is unrighteous, this is justice, this is anti-justice, this is social justice. All these things. Please, let's talk about mercy, right? Let's talk about forgiveness and grace. Justice will have its place by the one who is just, not by me. Right? Justice will come. But right now, my friends, we have mercy. We have grace. Right now, we have forgiveness. The guy who made everything on purpose with a reason, he made it beautiful. He put it all in the right place, at the right time, and gave it to us in that hope of love, saying, I love you. What's your response? Some of us say, we love you too. Some say, we got this, we're okay. That's the world we live in, isn't it? Evolutionists do everything, man. They jump through hoops to try to, no, there's no God. No, there's no God. They start off with the premise there's no God, and then they continue on, and any God talk, they just discard it immediately. That is blind. There's a switch deeply turned off in that person's soul. The one who, well, how could this come from nothing? How could this stuff all work? How does that emperor penguin know how to do that? How does a woodpecker not die of a concussion? How does all this happen? What? There must be somebody greater than me. There must be a reason, a plan, a purpose. I want to find out who that guy is. I want to know him well. I want to serve him. I want to walk in him. I know with him it will be fair. I know with him it'll be honest. I know with him it'll be beautiful. So guys, which camp are you in today? I'm saying this rhetorically, mainly for the camera, because I know you guys are okay, I hope. I hate you. I would rather kill you. I would like to see you burn in hell. But if you do live, I'm going to confuse the heck out of you and make you believe stupid things that just keep you further and further and further away from God. Camp, I hate you. Camp, I love you. Don't listen to that bozo. He's doomed. I give you life and life more abundantly. I was before all things. I put everything together. I invite you in. Will you come? There's the difference. Is there any comparison? How can we be so blind that we would run away from such a loving God? That is my question these days. You come into a relationship with him and things will start to come together. And in spite of the pain, in spite of all the stuff, guys, you will find your hope. You'll find your answers. Your troubles will be diminished. That is the plan. Plan, I love you. Camp, I love you. Are you in?